Good afternoon, anti-novelists, Lilligans, friends, curious onlookers. Everyone is welcome in the library. Welcome to this episode where we're going to dig a little further into character development. So here's where we are. I am at 19,410 words into the Zettelkasten for Fiction, where imagination finds order, the book I'm writing for you to help you get your writing done. So today I want to take you over to my Scrivener and give you just a little bit of a sneak peek because you guys are my faithful hearties that have stuck with me through this crazy process. So here we are. I've got part 1 pretty much drafted out. Part 2 is looking really good. Part 3, I'm very deep into character and drafting your team. Part 4 is the foundations of the novel. Part 5 is looking at the world stories where I'm going to go really deep into those. And then parts 6, 7, and 8 dig into other aspects of character and writing. So what I want to look at with you today is part 3, drafting your team. Because what I'm going to give you a sneak peek at is something I call the Key Players Worksheet. This is something that I created when I was first trying to figure out who my characters were. I knew who my main male and my main female were. That's Tara and Branch. I've talked about them plenty. But then I had to figure out how was I going to populate their world with the other people they needed to push them to grow, to interact with, to come to their aid, to challenge them, etc., and so forth. So let's just scroll down and I will give you that sneak peek as promised. So here we are, the Key Players Worksheet. Now, as I say in my little introduction here, don't worry if you don't know who all of these are right off. That's okay. You just need to start filling in the broad strokes. So let's begin, obviously, with your main character. Who is your main male and your main female, or whoever that main character is? Again, those are decisions for you to make about what kind of story you want to tell and who you're going to hang that framework on. So choose your protagonist right off the bat. Invest in some research for that character so that you know deeply who they are. I would argue that you should use my character development worksheet because that tool is going to help you get at all of those critical details. So that lives up here under part 2 of the book, and it starts at the very top of your characters, and it walks you through exactly who those characters are. So let's just start with 5 key ways to develop those 2 main characters. Number 1, physical and possessions description. So I want to know all aspects of what do they look like? How do they present themselves? What is something critical that they keep with them? Do they have like a lucky charm or something defining that they have with them at all times? Start to dive into that character. Then we have action. Actions can tell a lot of the story and reveal who a character is. So, is there anything that they do? Does your main character take their hair and twirl it around their fingers when they're nervous? Or do they pace when they think out loud? Start to think of those little mannerisms and actions because those are going to help you get the writing done. You will be able to see and feel them as you're doing the writing. Voice, this is how they speak, and diction, the words that they choose. So remember yesterday when I talked about the dialogue cards and collecting snippets of dialogue and things that people might say? This is where your dialogue cards come in handy. Because in order to develop that character's voice, you want to have examples that lock you into that point of view in your head so that you can write it effectively. Then we've got decisions. Decisions that the character makes in every area of their life, especially in tough situations. That can characterize their personality. So start to think about how do they handle difficult things. And then finally, relationships. Friends and family and how they interact with them can put that character's key points on display. So let's go back to drafting your team and continue on down our list. The next thing on the list after you define those main characters is, do they have a love interest? Sketch that out. Make some decisions about what does their relationship, their significant relationship look like? Or are you going to leave that ambivalent? That's another choice you have to make. Parent or parents, grandparent or grandparents, and sibling or siblings. Those are the critical family pieces that you'll want to start plugging in. Is your main character an orphan, Were they adopted? Do they have a traditional family? Do they have a non-traditional family? Do they have only a chosen family? Make some decisions about what that looks like. Then we get down to the best friend. Who is their bestie? Is it someone they've known a long time? Is it someone they bonded with quickly because of maybe a dramatic or a traumatic situation? Make decisions about the best friend, because that friend can give great color to your main character. Then we have a sidekick. Now, the best friend and sidekick can certainly be the same, as well as the comic relief. So these are those little decisions that you're going to have to make. Do you want to break those roles up among characters, or do you want to roll them all up in the best friend? Totally up to you, author. I've also added the annoying skeptic or the jealous opposition. This one can be really fun, just to throw that obstacle, that little minor antagonist in, to just needle away at your main character. That just adds for great tension. Of course, we've got the boss, and then we've got the coworker or the protege. So who does your main character work for, or do they work for themselves? And do they have a coworker or a protege that they've taken on to bring along in the field? These are the kinds of things, again, that reveal who that character is and help you bring your reader along into their lives. The last thing I will go into is I've got the nosy or the irritating opposition. So that's another little obstacle you can throw in there. I've got a wise guide or a mentor, depending on what kind of story you're writing, that might come in handy. And then I've got the Scooby Gang or the cadre of friends. So if your main character has surrounded themselves with a small ensemble of people, that can be super fun to write, because you're going to give each of them little quirks and differences of their own. That's going to create natural tension between them when things go wrong. That is a great tool if you want to use a small ensemble rather than just a main character with a best friend. Then we get into our villains. You've got your main villain, okay, your main villain bad guy. You've got a main antagonist, or even a full-on nemesis that just wants to bring your main character down. That's entirely up to you, but you've got to start thinking about those things. I've thrown in the antagonist, the contagonist, and the antagonist by proxy. When we talk about creating character cards in your Zettelkasten to create out your bad guys, I'm going to go deeply into these, but I have entire sub-chapters on just these items because I really want you to dig in, dive in deep to your bad guys, because they can be such gems within your story. So we've got a bunch more on the list, but I won't give you any more spoilers there. I will leave those characters where they are, and I will leave you to start filling out those key players on your worksheet. So that's it for today. I'm going to wrap up and let you have your Sunday for some leisurely writing and hopefully some drafting. In the meantime, I'm going to get back after the Zettelkasten for Fiction, Where Imagination Finds Order book. I'd like to get at least 2 more chapters written today, so that's what I'll be doing. If you want to hunker down with me, let's get some writing done. Thank you, as always, for your time. I know it's your most precious resource, and I very much appreciate you sharing even a few minutes with me. Drop me a comment if you have a specific question. I have a few more questions to answer from previous videos, but I am keeping a list. So if you have a question, or you're curious about something, or you want to see something additional, drop me a comment and I will absolutely answer back. So thank you again for your time. I will see you tomorrow.